In an alternate universe, Obi Wan Kenobi dies to General Grievous. As the report came in, Anakin Skywalker was heartbroken. The news of Obi Wan Kenobi's death at the hands of General Grievous hit him like a speeder crash. Anakin's mind whirled with a tempest of emotions. He had lost not just a mentor, but a brother. Anger and sorrow intertwined, fueling a storm within his heart. His thoughts spiraled back to the Jedi Order, the very institution he had devoted his life to. They had held him back when his mother needed him most, leading to her tragic demise. And now, once again, they had restrained him, preventing him from being there to protect Obi-Wan. Anakin's fury blazed, consuming his grief. He blamed the Jedi for their rigid codes and unyielding doctrines, which had cost him so dearly. They had stifled his potential, held him back from saving those he loved. He could have prevented this, he was sure of it. He could have saved Obi-Wan, just as he believed he could have saved his mother. But the Jedi, with their strict adherence to rules and their constant warnings about the dark side, had only ever constrained him. His fists clenched as he paced, his mind a battleground of anguish and rage.
They held me back,
he thought bitterly.
They held me back, and now he is dead.
Anakin's fury simmered, threatening to boil over. The loss of Obi-Wan was a wound too deep to bear, and the blame he placed on the Jedi only deepened his resolve. Anakin was too hurt to look at the Jedi Council. The temple, once a place of solace, now felt suffocating. He needed to escape, to find someone who could help him resolve this seething rage. Arriving at Palpatine's office, the Chancellor welcomed him with a somber expression.
Anakin, I am so sorry for your loss.
But even the Chancellor's condolences couldn't soothe the tempest within Anakin. The thought of Obi-Wan's death boiled his rage further.
If only the Jedi had let you go with him, Obi-Wan would still be alive.
I'm going to kill Grievous. I will tear him limb from limb.
As you should. It is only right.
But then, Palpatine's tone shifted, becoming more serious, almost conspiratorial.
Anakin, you cannot afford to lose any more loved ones. I want to help you.
What do you mean?
If you kill Grievous, the war will be nearly over. But then the Jedi will take control, and the knowledge to save Padme will die with them.
Anakin took a step back, his heart pounding.
What did you just say?
The mention of Padme, her life in danger, added a new layer of fear and desperation to his turmoil.
The Jedi are not the only ones with knowledge of the Force, Anakin. There are ways, secrets they do not share. Secrets that could save her.
How do you know of such secrets?
My mentor taught me powers of the dark side that could help, powers that the Jedi would never share with you.
Anakin's anger surged. He ignited his lightsaber, pointing it at Palpatine.
You're the Sith we've been searching for.
The realization that Palpatine was behind the death of Obi-Wan hit him like a ton of bricks. His fury was at an all-time high, but Palpatine remained calm, not even reaching for his own saber.
I am not your enemy, Anakin. I only want to help you. Remember all the times the Jedi have failed you. They held you back, allowed your mother to die, and now Obi-Wan. You can strike me down now if you wish, but then you will lose the chance to save Padme.
Anakin's resolve wavered. He wanted nothing more than to kill Palpatine, to end the source of his torment. But the promise of saving Padme stayed his hand. If what Palpatine was saying was true, then he needed him. Anakin deactivated his saber, his mind a maelstrom of conflicting emotions.
What must I do?
First, we must secure order before the Jedi make their move. Mace Windu is preparing to depart for Utapau to confront Grievous. Once he leaves, we must strike at the heart.
Anakin felt a chill run down his spine. The idea of turning against the Jedi, his friends and mentors, was abhorrent, but the thought of losing Padme was unbearable. He nodded slowly, his path set by desperation and fear.
Good. Together, we will bring peace and justice to the galaxy. And, most importantly, we will save Padme.
Anakin first stopped at Padme's apartment, his heart heavy with the burden of his decision. As he entered, Padme could see the turmoil etched on his face.
Anakin, what's wrong?
The Jedi have threatened to take over.
Padme looked at him, searching his eyes. She could see how devastated he was, the pain and conflict tearing him apart.
What are you going to do?
I will defend the Republic. It's not safe here, Padme. You need to go to Naboo and wait for me.
Anakin, I can't just leave you here. Not now.
Please. I need our family to be safe.
Padme looked into his eyes, seeing the desperation and love that drove him. She didn't want to cause him any more stress, didn't want to add to the weight he was already carrying. She nodded slowly, her heart aching. Anakin pulled her into a tight embrace, holding her as if he might never let go.
Thank you. I promise I'll come back to you. I'll make everything right.
Just be careful, Anakin. I love you.
He kissed her softly, then stepped back, forcing himself to let her go. As Mace Windu left the temple, Anakin and the 501st Legion prepared to march. The weight of what he was about to do pressed heavily on his shoulders. As they walked closer to the Jedi Temple, Anakin's thoughts raced. It wasn't too late to turn back. He didn't have to do this. But Padmé's life kept creeping into his head, her safety and the safety of their unborn child overriding all else. He thought of the Jedi and how they had wronged him, but that was a handful of people, a few at the top of the order. Inside the temple there were many innocent Jedi, younglings who had done nothing to deserve the fate that awaited them. The conflict within him grew with each step, a battle between his love for Padmé and his conscience screaming at him to stop. As they reached the entrance of the temple, they were met by the temple guards who halted them. Anakin's heart pounded in his chest. He thought long and hard. The decision he had made now felt like a colossal mistake. His gut twisted with doubt and regret.
Run!
He yelled, and with a powerful force push, he sent waves of troopers back. The clones opened fire on the Jedi, and in that moment, Anakin made his choice. He ignited his lightsaber, but instead of attacking the Jedi, he joined them in defending the temple. Blades clashed, and the sound of blaster fire filled the air. Anakin fought alongside the temple guards, his mind a whirlwind of chaos. He had turned against the clones, the very soldiers he had led into battle countless times before. The raid on the Jedi Temple began with an eruption of chaos. The 501st Legion, trained and relentless, stormed the entrance with precision and firepower. Blaster bolts ricocheted off walls and lightsabers, creating a deadly symphony of battle. Anakin, his heart pounding, was caught in the middle, fighting against the very clones he had led into the temple. Inside the temple, the scene was one of pandemonium. Jedi Knights and Padawans scrambled to defend their sacred halls, their blue and green lightsabers igniting in the dim light. Anakin moved with a singular purpose, his lightsaber a blur of blue as he deflected blaster bolts and cut down attacking clones. He found himself in the creche, where the youngest Jedi, the children, were huddled in fear.
Come with me!
He shouted, urgency in his voice. The children hesitated, but a few recognized him and trusted his call. Anakin led them through the temple corridors, protecting them with his blade and using the Force to shield them from harm. As he moved deeper into the temple, he encountered more Jedi under siege, masters and knights. Their faces etched with determination and fear, fought valiantly against the overwhelming tide. Anakin joined them, his skills and strength bolstering their defense. He fought side by side with his former comrades, his heart breaking with each fallen Jedi. In the library, Anakin saw Jocasta Nu desperately defending the archives. Anakin helped her, deflecting blaster fire and cutting down advancing clones, but the numbers were too great and the defenses were crumbling. Anakin moved from room to room, aiding where he could. He saved a group of young Padawans, directing them to a hidden passage that led to safety. He found Masters Chin Dralig and Sara Keto locked in fierce combat with the invaders. Together, they fought back the onslaught, but the tide was relentless. The battle raged on, and despite his efforts, Anakin saw more and more Jedi fall. The temple, once a place of peace and learning, was becoming a slaughterhouse. His heart ached with each life lost, and he pushed himself to the brink, desperate to save as many as he could. But it soon became clear that the temple could not hold. The clones were too numerous, their assault too coordinated. Anakin knew they had to retreat if any were to survive.
Fall back! We need to get out now!
Gathering the survivors he could find, Anakin led them through a series of hidden passages known only to the Jedi. They moved quickly and silently, evading clone patrols and slipping through the shadows. Anakin used the Force to sense danger and guide them to safety. At last, they emerged from the temple into the night, a small group of weary and wounded Jedi. Anakin looked back at the temple, its once proud spires now shrouded in smoke and flame. He felt a deep sorrow and guilt, knowing he couldn't save everyone. But the lives he had saved, the children, and the few Jedi who had escaped with him, gave him a glimmer of hope.
We have to keep moving. We can't stay here.
Palpatine sat in his dimly lit office, his expression a mask of cold fury as he received the report. Anakin had betrayed him, choosing to defend the Jedi Temple instead of carrying out the order to destroy it. The failure was a significant setback, but it was not the end of his plans. The fallout of Order 66, however, was devastating for the Jedi. Across the galaxy, clones turned on their Jedi generals without warning. Friend turned against friend in an instant as the program directive took hold. The betrayal was swift and brutal. Palpatine's holographic communication network buzzed with reports from clone commanders. The once vibrant and powerful Jedi Order was being torn apart, their members hunted down and executed with merciless efficiency. In the Jedi Temple, the aftermath of the battle was a scene of horror. Smoke billowed from shattered windows, and the once immaculate halls were now littered with debris and bodies. The scent of scorched metal and burnt flesh permeated the air. Survivors huddled in hidden corners, their hearts heavy with grief and loss. Anakin reached the planet of Naboo with a heart heavy from the recent events. As he landed, he felt a surge of anticipation mixed with anxiety. He rushed to see Padme, needing her presence to ground him, to offer solace in this time of turmoil. When he entered the room, he stumbled upon a sight that made his breath catch in his throat. Padme was not alone. In her arms, she held two tiny babies, their newborn cries filling the air. For a moment, the sight of his family made Anakin forget everything that had happened. The horror of the temple raid, the betrayal, and the looming shadow of the Empire. All of it faded as he beheld his children for the first time. Padme looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and concern.
Anakin, meet Luke and Leia.
Anakin moved closer, his heart swelling with love and protectiveness. He gently touched each of the babies, their tiny fingers grasping at his. For a fleeting moment, he felt a peace he hadn't known in years. But the reality of their situation came crashing back in, and the weight of his actions and their consequences settled heavily upon him. He took a deep breath and looked into Padme's eyes. He recounted everything, his confrontation with Palpatine, the attack on the temple, and his role in defending it against the clones. He spoke of the Jedi's betrayal, Palpatine's manipulations, and the devastating Order 66. Padme listened, her face a mask of shock and sorrow. When he finished, she placed a hand on his cheek, her touch gentle and comforting.
Anakin, you've been through so much, but we can find peace together. The three of us. No, the four of us. We can leave all of this behind.
You're right. We have to leave. The galaxy is changing, transitioning into the Galactic Empire. It's not safe for us here.
They quickly made preparations, gathering what they could carry. Anakin knew that they had to disappear, to go somewhere where the Empire couldn't reach them. He could feel the Force guiding him, urging him to protect his family at all costs. As they boarded their ship, Anakin held Luke and Leia close, promising himself that he would do everything in his power to keep them safe. Padme stood by his side, her strength and love giving him the courage he needed. The galaxy was falling into darkness, but as long as they had each other, there was hope. As days turned into months, and months into years, life on the run was anything but easy for Anakin, Padme, and their children. They moved from planet to planet, never staying in one place for too long. They had to remain vigilant, always wary of Imperial patrols and bounty hunters. The once great Jedi Knight had become a fugitive, and the weight of his past choices bore heavily on his shoulders. They settled on remote worlds, often in harsh environments where they could stay hidden. Anakin used his skills to find work, often taking on menial labor far beneath his abilities, all to keep his family safe and fed. Padme, ever resourceful, adapted to their nomadic life, focusing on raising Luke and Leia in relative obscurity. She taught them the values of kindness, resilience, and hope, shielding them as best she could from the galaxy's growing darkness. Despite their efforts to maintain a semblance of normalcy, the stress of their situation took a toll. Anakin found himself plagued by nightmares, vivid and relentless. He would awaken in a cold sweat, the horrors of the past replaying in his mind. In his dreams, he saw the faces of fallen Jedi, the chaos of the temple raid, and the lifeless bodies of those he couldn't save. The most haunting visions were those of Palpatine, his malevolent grin and whispered promises echoing through the darkness. Anakin knew that if he had only killed Palpatine when he had the chance, the galaxy might have been spared the tyranny of the Empire. The burden of that missed opportunity weighed on him heavily. He often woke in the middle of the night, silently leaving the bed he shared with Padme to sit alone and brood. He questioned his decisions, wondering how different their lives would be if he had acted decisively against the Sith Lord. Padme saw the toll these nightmares took on Anakin. She offered him comfort and reassurance, reminding him of the good he had done and the family they had built together. But even her love couldn't fully ease the torment that gripped his soul. The guilt and regret festered, creating a deep-seated fear that he would never escape his past. Luke and Leia grew up sensing their father's inner turmoil. Despite his efforts to shield them, they saw the shadows in his eyes and the tension that never fully left him. Anakin did his best to be a good father, teaching them skills for survival and self-defense. But he often found himself wondering if he was doing enough, if he could truly protect them from the Empire's reach. One night, as Anakin tossed and turned in his sleep, he felt a familiar, yet distant presence through the Force. It was Master Yoda, reaching out to him across the vastness of space. In his dream, the aged Jedi Master appeared serene but resolute, his presence a beacon of hope.
Young Skywalker, much to discuss we have.
Master Yoda, how can this be?
Regrouped we have. In the shadows, surviving Jedi now prepare for a last stand. Need you, we do. The chosen one, to lead us.
Beside Yoda, other familiar faces appeared. Mace Windu, stern and determined. Kit Fisto, with his reassuring smile. Agen Kolar, Sazi Teen, and several other Jedi who had evaded the Empire's grasp. They stood united, their spirits unbroken despite the darkness that had fallen over the galaxy. Anakin listened intently as Yoda conveyed the coordinates of their rendezvous point. The planet was Ossus, a remote world with a history tied to the Jedi Order. It was far from the Empire's usual patrol routes, its ancient temples and hidden enclaves providing the perfect refuge for a regrouping of the Jedi. Anakin woke with a start, the dream vivid in his mind. He looked over at Padme, who was sleeping peacefully beside him, and then at Luke and Leia, nestled close. The decision weighed heavily on him. He knew that joining the surviving Jedi would mean risking everything once again, but it also presented a chance to strike back against the Empire and fulfill his destiny as the Chosen One. In the morning, Anakin shared the vision with Padme. She listened carefully, understanding the gravity of the situation.
You have to go, Anakin. The galaxy needs you.
We'll find a way to stay safe until you return.
Anakin nodded, his resolve hardening.
I will come back for you. We will find peace.
With a heavy heart, Anakin prepared to leave. He knew the journey to Ossus would be perilous, but the call of the Force and the need to fight against the darkness that had engulfed the galaxy drove him forward. As he boarded his ship, he took one last look at his family, committing their faces to memory. Then, with a deep breath, he set course for Ossus, where the remnants of the Jedi Order awaited their Chosen One, ready to make their final stand against the Empire. As Anakin's ship soared through the galaxy, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The coordinates for Ossus were programmed into the Navi computer, and the stars streaked past as he traveled through hyperspace. He could feel the presence of the surviving Jedi through the Force, their hope and determination giving him strength.